I bring life and hope.
Alexstrasza is a classic, neutral, legendary 8/8 for 9 mana, whose card text reads, Battle Cry. Set a hero's remaining health to 15. According to Arena value, Alex is picked 25% of the time in Arena. Adwicto rates her as great in Arena, while Trump rates her as average. Alexstrasza is not the kind of card that you just throw in a deck unless you have a very specific reason to do so. 8/8 for 9 mana is not really good stats if you just compare it to Onyxia or Ironbark Protector, for example, but the Battle Cry is very powerful in the right deck. Alex is usually only a good choice if you plan on playing defensively until turn 9 or later and then doing a lot of damage, or in a deck where you expect to dip very low in health by the end game. Playing tips are kind of hard to give about Alexstrasza in general, because you can use her in dramatically different ways depending on what context she's in, whether you're playing her in Freeze Mage or Molten Giant's Echo Control Mage, for example, but I'll do my best. So when you have Alex in your hand and you do not plan on using her on yourself, you plan on using her on your enemy, keep in mind that any damage that you do to your opponent's health total is pretty much pointless since you're going to set them to 15 anyways. So make plans accordingly. For example, Control Warrior often puts pretty low priority on playing a Ragnaros on an empty board if they haven't played Alexstrasza already, because the value in the Battle Cry of Ragnaros doing 8 damage to the face is almost lost. You should know that Alexstrasza does not destroy armor as much as Freeze Mage players would like it to. Alexstrasza is a dragon, so she synergizes with all the normal dragon synergy stuff. Alexstrasza can more or less ensure that Draconid Crusher gets its buff. Since Alex is one of the higher costing cards in the game, it does synergize with Holy Wrath. You can set your health back up to 15 after you play Major Domo Executus and it dies and it turns you into Ragnaros, so that you don't have to be at 8 health anymore, although I'm not really sure why you would be playing that card to begin with. There used to be a combo in Warrior when charge cost 0, where you would have a Gorehowl already equipped and you would do Alexstrasza and charge on the next turn, set the enemy's health down to 15, run Alex in and then run your Gorehowl in and kill them immediately. What's called a one-turn kill combo, even though it's not technically a one-turn kill because you have to have the Gorehowl out. But anyways, that went away with the nerf to charge, but then Emperor Thaurissan was introduced. So now there is a possible combo where you have charge and Alexstrasza in your hand and you play Thaurissan, and it doesn't have to survive any extra turns, it just has to go off once. And then if you have an Arcanite Reaper or a Gorehowl equipped, the next turn you can do Alexstrasza and charge on Alexstrasza and then hit with Alex and the weapon, and unless they have armor you'll kill your opponent regardless of their health the next turn. As far as anti-synergies go, the only one I can think of was Nerubar Weblord, which makes it literally impossible to play Alexstrasza. Cheap and efficient removal like Shadow Word Death, Hex, and Polymorph are great against Alexstrasza. Big Game Hunter, of course, is going to hunt Alexstrasza as it has more than 6 health. Aldor Peacekeeper's great against Alexstrasza because it has such high attack that you can turn to 1. Like I mentioned earlier, Nerubar Weblord makes Alexstrasza unplayable. Heals like Antique Healbot and Lay on Hands are really good against Alexstrasza because they can disrupt whatever kind of damage your opponent was planning on doing as a follow-up to Alexstrasza. Mal'Ganis actually does not allow your hero to be targeted by Alexstrasza. I learned this the hard way the other day. So Mal'Ganis can, to some degree, counter Alex. And finally, Rend Blackhand is a counter to all legendaries except maybe Sylvanas. So Rend Blackhand is great against Alexstrasza. It's really hard to say how you should replace Alexstrasza or if it's even possible. It really depends on the deck you're playing it in. So in Control Warrior, to replace Alexstrasza, my recommendation would be to go for the no BGH target Control Warrior style. Right now, because Big Game Hunter is such an impactful card on the metagame, there's sort of 2 styles of control. One that runs a lot of Big Game Hunter targets like Dr. Boom, Alexstrasza, Ragnaros. Another that tries to get away from big game hunter targets and just runs none except for Grow Mash. So I would play that second style and use those legendaries if you have them. If you don't have those legendaries, just use whatever your favorite big card is. Boulder Fist Ogre, Sunwalker, whatever. If we're talking Freeze Mage, which is the other main archetype that uses Alexstrasza at the moment, that's a good deal harder. A lot of people will say that you just can't play Freeze Mage without Alexstrasza, and for the most part they're right. But if you really want to, my recommendation would be to play an OTK Mage. So what you would do would be, instead of playing Alexstrasza, you play this combo: Sorcerer's Apprentice, Ancient Mage, put between them, and then Fireball, Frostbolt, Ice Lance. So that will do exactly 30 damage. So you don't need Alexstrasza. You just do 30 damage with those 7 cards. I think it's 7 cards. It's really hard to pull off, but I have played with a deck like this a lot, and it is possible to do that. So if you just want the Freeze Mage feel, I don't think this deck is going to be as good as Freeze Mage, but you just want to replace cards in your deck so you can fit that combo in and leave out Alexstrasza. Usually you would even run Alexstrasza in that deck. But if you don't, it's not quite as big of a deal as if you don't run Alexstrasza in the standard Freeze Mage type. The deck I decided to play to show off Alexstrasza is the classic Alexstrasza deck, which is Freeze Mage. And the way Freeze Mage works is on turn 9 you play Alexstrasza on the enemy most of the time, and then you have all these burn spells that do a bunch of damage to their face. Since they're spells, taunts can't stop it. The only thing that can stop it is heals or Loatheb or something. This deck is actually slightly different than the one I play in the game that I'm going to show you. That's just because the game I played was recorded before Blackrock Mountain came out. And when Blackrock Mountain came out, there was one card in particular that I had to change. But I do think this is currently the best Freeze Mage list. Let's look at what we got in here. The Ice Lance. Usually you want to be saving it to do the 4 damage after you Frostbolt the face. Frostbolt, Ice Lance is like 11 damage. But sometimes you get in sticky situations and you just use it to freeze one of their minions or even their face if they're a weapon class. Frostbolt, again, you can use it to freeze minions or kill small minions. Like if you're against a hunter and they play a Knife Juggler, often it's best to just Frostbolt the Knife Juggler and know that later on you will be able to kill them. Since they don't have much heal, you can waste your burn on their minions if you need to. Blood Mage Thalnos is a good card in this deck because you want to be cycling cards, you want to be drawing cards, and Blood Mage draws a card. But the spell damage is also really useful since like half the deck is spells. It's okay if you don't have Blood Mage Thalnos. You can put a Cobalt Geomancer or another Loot Hoarder in there if you want to, but it really does improve the quality of the deck. Doomsayer, you're not going to be playing many minions that you care about, so Doomsayer is perfect because you can kill their minions and not worry about your board exploding. And it's also perfect because you've got a lot of freeze spells in your deck. So you can freeze their board and play Doomsayer, and supposedly there's nothing they can do about it, and everything on their board dies, although most of the time they can deal with the Doomsayer. Explosive Sheep, it's kind of optional in Freeze Mage. If you're facing a lot of aggro, a lot of zoo, stuff like that, Explosive Sheep really shines because you can basically clear their board sometimes for 4 mana, since you can use your hero power on your own Explosive Sheep. One thing I do want to mention about Doomsayer and Explosive Sheep, against Mech Mages, these cards are even better because Mech Mages play Mirror Entity a lot of the times. Like Explosive Sheep into Mirror Entity, and then you hero power it, that's like doing 4 damage to everything. So that's like a Flame Strike. And Doomsayer goes off at the start of the owner's turn, the person who owns Doomsayer's turn. So if you play Doomsayer into Mirror Entity against a Mech Mage, their board will die as soon as you hit the end turn button, and there's nothing they can do about it. Loot Hoarder is just here for card draw. Real close between Loot Hoarder and Novice Engineer. Sometimes people play Novice, sometimes people play Loot Hoarder. Novice gets you the card draw right away, which can sometimes be really important, but Loot Hoarder has 1 extra attack, which really is sometimes a major thing. Mad Scientist is a great card in this deck. It lets you pull your secrets out with a lot more consistency, and it puts some power on the board so you can fight for the early game. Arcane Intellect is here for drawing through your deck as fast as possible. This is like a combo deck. You need to get your Alexstrasza into burn by turn 9 and 10 or whatever. So you really need to put a lot of card draw into this deck Frost Nova, it freezes their board, so it buys you another turn, and it also combos with Doomsayer, so often on turn 5, they'll do Frost Nova Doomsayer, and you'll clear their board and make it so they can't play anything that turn as well. Ice Barrier, sometimes people only put 1. I think 2 is better, so that you almost always have something getting pulled out by Mad Scientist, and it really improves your Hunter matchup. Ice Block, it just straight up buys you another turn unless they have Case on Mystic or something like that. And this deck is a deck that lives or dies by an extra turn or 2. It's not about, controlling the board or anything. It's about living exactly as many turns as you need to in order to kill your opponent with your combo. Acolyte of Pain is again here for the draw. If you're a newer player, keep in mind, as a mage with Acolyte of Pain, you can use your hero power on the Acolyte, and that's the main purpose of putting that in this deck, is that you play Acolyte and you hero power the Acolyte, so it does 1 damage to it. You don't care how much health it has, really. The fact that you get an extra card is totally worth it. Fireball, this is part of your suite of burn spells. Not too much to say there. Blizzard is another freeze spell. It also does 2 damage, which is sometimes relevant, but mostly it's there just to be able to freeze the board a 3rd and 4th time. Emperor Thaurissan, this is the card that I put in after Blackrock Mountain came out. You can make the Ice Lances cost 0, which is huge, and Frost Pulse costs 1. You can make it so you can do so much damage in 1 turn, and it has a 5/5 body, so it can clear off a minion for you maybe. Flame Strike, you'd think you'd want 2 in a deck like this that's trying to stall, but really Flame Strike costs a lot of mana, and Blizzard is guaranteed to stop all incoming damage. Flame Strike is not. But sometimes you do just need that turn where you can finish off a bunch of stuff. So we only put 1 Flame Strike in here. Archmage Antonidas, it really extends the reach of this deck. Alexstrasza, the card that we're playing this deck to show off. Like I said, the game plan is to Alexstrasza your opponent's face and then burn them down with spells. But keep in mind that you don't have to do that. You can play Alexstrasza defensively and still win. You have over 30 points of damage possible with this deck, especially with Archmage Antonidas. So if you have to Alexstrasza your own face to stay alive, it's perfectly fine to do so. And finally, Pyroblast. You can't believe this card used to be 8 mana, but yeah, it's 10 mana to deal 10 damage. Just another part of the suite of damage spells. Okay, we're against a Priest, which is pretty tough for Freeze Mage, because they can heal themselves back up after you Alex them. But it's definitely not unwinnable. And I'm not even positive that it's unfavorable, because you do have the advantage in that Priest doesn't have much burst and often can't apply that much pressure, so you have a lot of time to try and get all the burn that you need in your hand. After a lot of deliberation, he decides to pass turn 1, and we will do the same. That might mean he has a Northshire Cleric that he's not sure about playing, or it might just mean that he was AFK for a little bit. Honestly, Freeze Mage is one of the more... It's been criticized a long time for being one of the less interactive decks, so it doesn't really even matter that much to us whether or not he's got a Northshire Cleric in his hand. So I'm not going to worry too much about trying to make that read. So we had a Zombie Chow, maybe that's what he was deliberating about, and a Power Word Shield. Zombie Chows are definitely not very scary for Freeze Mage, because you don't... Chow is a board control card, and we don't need board control at all. And we're not... it can hit us for 3 turns, and then we kill it, and we're basically back to where we started. So we don't care that it's on the board forever. We don't care that it's a 2/5 on turn 2. We are just going to throw out the Loot Hoarder, though, to cycle and sort of occupy his Chow for a little bit. Any Thought Steals? Thought Steal can be the point at which Priest wins this matchup. If they get an Ice Block, that can make it really difficult to kill them. Or if they get an anti-kill bot, that can be really bad. Luckily, we only run 1 anti-kill bot, which actually most Freeze Mages at most run 1, and it is in our hand, so there's no way he could have gotten the heal bot. So it's turn 3, we just Arcane Intellect. We could have developed a secret, but I really want more options in my hand as quickly as possible. We should have plenty of time to develop our secrets later on. He Valen's Chosen's the zombie chow, so he continues to buff it. It makes it a little scarier now. 4 attack isn't nothing. But we don't really have any way to kill it. I wouldn't want to waste a fireball on it anyway if we could. So we can Doomsayer here because he doesn't have the power on board to kill the Doomsayer and just force him to have a Shadow Word Pain or whatever it is priests have that deal with Doomsayer. And that is what I decided to do. It's debatable as to whether or not I should have thrown down the Mad Scientist as well, just to get our secrets up. But I decided to ping. He just hits face and he doesn't have a way to kill the Doomsayer, so we're pretty much back at full health, and he invested like 2 buffs on that zombie chow and it didn't do very much. So we're pretty happy. Here, best way to use our mana is probably to develop a secret and to play a Mad Scientist. And it's kind of important what secret to play. I think ice blocks are the more important secret to have at your disposal. So we're going to play an ice barrier so that it makes it more likely that Mad Scientists will fetch us an ice block. And then we already have an ice block in our hand. So we got both our ice blocks squared away, which is good. He plays a Mad Scientist, which almost positive he thought stole. There's no reason you play a Mad Scientist in Priest, and he Valens that as well. So kind of a weird Priest deck. I don't think many Priest decks run double Valens, but I may be wrong. And we'll just sack in our Mad Scientist, and we get a nice block. But that was guaranteed, I'm pretty sure. And I didn't want to waste a fireball on that Mad Scientist. We need our burn really badly. So I just ping it and drop down a Blood Mage. You know, you can save the Blood Mage for spell damage, but also I'd say its more important function is that it just cycles a card. So we're just going to throw it down there. If it just cycles a card, that's fine. If it lets us get off a 3 damage Blizzard, that's even better. He drops an Ooze, so that's... I see that in some Priest decks. I think that's a pretty good card to put in Priest. And it's a Golden Ooze. I think that means he's like a level 58 Rogue, if that means anything to us. So I Flame Strike there. That looks like a pretty weak board to Flame Strike, but actually, a lot of the times, you just want to get Flame Strike out of your hand. Like, it costs 7 mana. And, just to be able to kill 2 things with it is fine. And you want to save your lower mana cost freeze things for later use when you also have to like do something else in the turn, like Anti-Keelbot Frost Nova in the same turn, or Blizzard Ice Block in the same turn, or something like that. And you couldn't otherwise do that with Flame Strike. So he drops us Needs. We don't have any way to deal with that. We are just going to Blizzard. It may have actually been a waste of a Blizzard. I should have just let it be and accepted the 5 damage there. But again, it was sort of an expensive card. And we do have... Well, we do have another turn of freeze left in our hand, and we've got our Alexstrasza, so... Yeah, it was debatable. I think maybe that was wrong to play Blizzard there. But I do need to make room in my hand a little bit, actually, because my hand size is getting pretty big. In fact, yeah, I did have to play a card there. So I think Blizzard was probably the right card to play, since I did have to play a card. He drops Ysera, so this is a really, really control-heavy Priest, which is fine for us. Although, you know, if Ysera lives too long, we're going to have to start making moves here. So if we Alex him, we do have 15 damage in hand, but he is going to almost surely heal up to 17. And you could sort of get into a situation where you're constantly chasing them to be able to kill them. if you don't have the burn guaranteed in hand to be able to kill him over the course of 2 turns. So if we got stranded without any burn left and he was at 2 health, he could just keep healing, and we'd have to just pray for like a pyroblast or something, which is not that bad. I mean, you're still in a winning position there, but since I have a Frost Nova Doomsayer, I think I'm going to play that and just wait another turn because I can afford it, to see if I can draw an Ice Lance or a Pyroblast or something that I want. Because we're pretty comfortable. We're at 27 health, we have an Ice Barrier up, so we're effectively at like 35. And we have our Ice Block up, and we have the second one in hand. So, and we have a heal bot, so we can survive many turns. There's no need to pull the trigger on Alex before we're ready. So best case scenario, this kills the Ysera and the Sneeds, and he doesn't get a very good legendary out of it. He's going to opt to draw. It's kind of crazy if he's gone this long and he doesn't have an answer to Doomsayer, but he doesn't, so we get to kill a Ysera for free. And Sneeds drops Nor's Dormer, so we have to go quick here. This is one of the reasons why it's good to always have a plan in your mind for the next coming turns. So we draw Pyroblast, and we know what we have to do now. We have the burn we need. We Alex him. We let him do his thing. We know we're going to Pyroblast next turn, most likely. And then the turn after that, we're just going to throw all our burn in his face, and almost surely that will kill him. So he heals up as much as he can. He attacks us. There's no need to worry about trying to save ourselves. We have plenty of health, and we have an Ice Block up, so we're just going to Pyroblast his face. And it's important to, when Nozdormu is out, to not wait to try and play your cards, because there's weird things that happen with the animation, and sometimes you don't even get to play your turn if he does too much on his turn. So definitely be ready and be attentive when Nozdormu is out. And we have lethal. So what was kind of an average Freeze Mage game turned into something that was really interesting when Nozdormu popped out there. So I thought that was a really fun game. And it also showed how Alex works in Freeze Mage.
I will mourn your death.